The rain fell in steady sheets outside the expansive windows of the Caldwell family's modern loft in Portland, Oregon. On a crisp September evening in 2024, the city's skyline glimmered faintly through the mist, casting a muted glow over the open-plan dining area where Claire Donovan, stood arranging a bouquet of dahlias for a family dinner. My brother-in-law, Nathan Caldwell, had insisted on hosting this gathering to celebrate my recent promotion to Vice President of Strategy at a burgeoning green energy startup, Verdant Solutions. But the warmth of the occasion was overshadowed by an undercurrent of unease that clung to the air like damp fog. Nathan bustled in the kitchen, his sleeves rolled up as he stirred a pot of what he claimed was his signature wild mushroom risotto. The rich, earthy scent mingled with a sharper, unfamiliar note that made my nose twitch. "Claire, you're in for a treat tonight," he called out, his voice brimming with enthusiasm but his eyes darting to my husband, Ethan, who was setting out wine glasses with a practiced smile. "I crafted a special herb blend for the risotto just for you. Ethan mentioned you've been craving something unique." I forced a polite nod, my fingers tightening around the vase. "That's thoughtful, Nathan. But you know I'm not big on heavy flavors." The truth was, I hadn't trusted Nathan's cooking since a family picnic last spring, where his homemade gazpacho sent me to the ER with searing abdominal pain. The doctors called it food poisoning. But I'd stopped believing in accidents after 3 such incidents in 18 months, each one conveniently timed before a major presentation or client meeting. Ethan's sister, Vivian, lounged at the dining table, her perfectly manicured nails tapping against a crystal wine glass. Her auburn hair was swept into an elegant updo, but her gaze was cold, appraising me like a chess opponent. "You look exhausted, Claire," she said, her voice dripping with faux concern. "All those late nights at the office must be taking a toll. You really should slow down." "I'm managing," I replied, my eyes flicking to the plate Nathan had just placed before me. The risotto was creamy, studded with dark mushrooms, but it glistened with an oily sheen that carried a faint, metallic tang, nothing like the comforting aroma of the side dishes. My pulse quickened. Something was wrong, and I wasn't about to ignore the prickling instinct that had kept me alive through too many coincidences. The past 18 months had been a relentless climb. My work at Verdant Solutions had secured contracts worth tens of millions, propelling the company and my reputation into the spotlight. But with each triumph, Ethan grew quieter, his warmth replaced by a distant unease. Nathan and Vivian's invitations to family bonding became more frequent, each one followed by an illness that left me sidelined. A spiked cocktail at their 4th of July barbecue, a tainted dessert at Ethan's birthday dinner. Each time, Ethan had an excuse. "Maybe you're allergic to something new, or you've been pushing yourself too hard." But I wasn't blind. Not after finding a strange, unlabeled vial in Ethan's briefcase after a dinner at Vivian's, its contents smelling faintly of the same metallic tang I now detected in the risotto. "Try the risotto, Claire," Ethan urged, his voice tight as he slid into the seat beside me. His hand brushed mine, but the touch felt rehearsed, not affectionate. "Nathan went all out for you." I glanced at the table. 4 plates, 4 wine glasses. But my risotto was the only one with a generous drizzle of the suspicious herb oil. Vivian's and Nathan's portions were plain, and Ethan's had only a faint trace. "I'll start with the salad," I said, pushing the plate away. "I'm not that hungry yet." Vivian's smile faltered, and Nathan's stirring paused for a fraction of a second. Ethan's jaw tightened, his fingers drumming on the table. The loft felt smaller, the rain's steady patter amplifying the tension. I excused myself to the powder room, slipping my phone from my pocket. I'd been recording since we arrived, a habit I'd adopted after the gazpacho incident. The tiny device captured every word, every glance, every lie. In the bathroom, I locked the door and leaned against the sink, my heart racing. I opened my phone's hidden folder, labeled Sentinel, where I'd stored evidence of the past incidents, photos of the vial, screenshots of cryptic texts between Ethan and Vivian, and a log of every illness, complete with dates, symptoms, and who had served me what. The first clue had come in February, when I collapsed during a rehearsal for a pitch to a major investor. Ethan had stepped in, presenting my slides as his own, and the client credited him with the deal. Later, I found a powdery residue in my water bottle, which Ethan claimed was just electrolyte mix. I didn't confront him. Instead, I started documenting everything. Back at the table, I noticed Vivian's wine glass sitting unattended while she fussed with her phone. Nathan was in the kitchen, and Ethan was distracted, pouring himself another drink. Seizing the moment, I accidentally knocked over a water glass, creating a small commotion. "Oh, I'm so sorry," I said, grabbing napkins to mop up the spill. In the chaos, I swapped my wine glass with Vivian's, my movements swift and subtle, ensuring no one noticed. "Clumsy me," I said with a forced laugh, settling back into my seat. I lifted Vivian's glass to my lips, pretending to sip while watching them closely. Nathan's eyes flicked to the glass, his brow twitching almost imperceptibly. Ethan's fingers froze on his phone. The air grew heavy with unspoken questions, and I knew I'd just set something in motion. The rain battered the windows of the Caldwell family's Portland loft, the storm outside mirroring the tension that crackled within the dining area. Claire Donovan, sat back at the sleek walnut table, my heart pounding as I clutched Vivian's wine glass, now mine after the subtle swap I'd orchestrated moments ago. The faint metallic scent of the risotto still lingered in the air, but my focus was on the three people before me: my husband, Ethan, whose fingers twitched nervously around his phone; my brother-in-law, Nathan, who hovered near the kitchen with a forced smile; and my sister-in-law, Vivian, whose sharp gaze hadn't left me since I returned from the powder room. "Claire, you haven't touched the risotto," Nathan said, his voice overly cheerful as he leaned against the counter, a ladle in hand. "It's getting cold. I made it just for you." "I'll get to it," I replied, my tone light but my eyes locked on his. "I'm just enjoying the wine for now." I raised Vivian's glass, pretending to sip, the rim barely grazing my lips. The liquid inside carried a faint, bitter undertone, nothing like the crisp Sauvignon Blanc Ethan had poured earlier. My stomach churned, but I kept my expression neutral, watching for their reactions. Vivian's lips tightened, her fingers pausing mid-tap on her phone. Ethan's gaze flicked to the glass, then away, his jaw clenching. Nathan's smile faltered, just for a second, before he turned back to the stove. The room felt like a pressure cooker, every glance and gesture loaded with unspoken intent. I'd been through too many incidents to ignore the signs: 3 hospitalizations in 18 months, each tied to a meal or drink served by Nathan or Vivian, each excused by Ethan as a fluke. But I wasn't here to play the victim. "Not tonight." "Claire, you're awfully quiet," Vivian said, her voice smooth but edged with something darker. She leaned forward, her auburn hair catching the light of the pendant lamps. "Everything okay? You seem distracted." "Just savoring the moment," I said, my gaze drifting to the table. 4 plates, 4 wine glasses. But my risotto was the only one glistening with that suspicious herb oil. And my original wine glass, now in Vivian's possession, had been the only one Ethan poured with such deliberate care. "It's not every day we get together like this." Ethan forced a laugh, but it sounded hollow. "Yeah, we should do this more often, right, Nathan?" "Absolutely," Nathan replied, returning to the table with a basket of bread. His eyes met Ethan's for a fleeting moment, a silent exchange that tightened the knot in my chest. I'd seen that look before, at their 4th of July barbecue, right before I drank the spiked cocktail that landed me in the ER. I wasn't imagining things. Something was happening, and I was one step away from proving it. I set the glass down, my fingers brushing the edge of my phone in my pocket. The recording was still running, capturing every word, every pause. But I needed more than audio. I needed them to slip up. As Nathan reached for his wine, I saw my chance. Vivian was distracted, scrolling through her phone, and Ethan was busy slicing the bread. "Oh, I almost forgot," I said, standing abruptly. "I brought a bottle of that Pinot Noir you love." "Vivian, it's in my bag. Let me grab it." I moved toward the coat rack by the door, deliberately brushing past the table. As I passed Vivian's chair, I tripped, my hand grazing the table just enough to jostle the glasses. "Oh, clumsy me," I exclaimed, steadying myself while swapping my original wine glass now in Vivian's spot back to my place, and placing Vivian's untouched glass in front of her. The switch was seamless, invisible unless someone was watching for it. I glanced at Vivian, Her eyes narrowed, but she said nothing, her fingers tightening around her phone. "Sorry about that," I said, returning to my seat with a fake smile. "I'll grab the Pinot later. Let's not let the wine get warm." I lifted my original glass, now Vivian's, and pretended to sip, my heart racing. The bitter scent was stronger now, unmistakable. I watched Vivian closely as she picked up her glass, my tainted one, and brought it to her lips. She took a small sip, then another. I held my breath, counting the seconds. 5, 10, nothing. Doubt crept in. Was I wrong? Had I misread the signs? Then Vivian's hand trembled, the glass slipping slightly in her grip. She coughed, a sharp, choking sound, and pressed a hand to her chest. Her face flushed, her eyes widening in panic. "Vivian, what's wrong?" Nathan's voice was sharp, his ladle clattering to the counter as he rushed to her side. Ethan shot to his feet, his chair scraping against the floor. "Viv, are you okay?" "My throat, it's burning." Vivian gasped, her voice hoarse. She clutched the table, her nails digging into the wood. "Nathan, there's something in the wine?" I stood, my phone still recording, my voice calm despite the adrenaline surging through me. "Not feeling well." "Vivian?" I asked, stepping closer. "Maybe it's the wine, or maybe it's something else." Ethan's head snapped toward me, his face pale. "Claire, what are you talking about? This is insane." "Is it?" I held up the glass, Vivian's original one, now in my hand, because Vivian just drank from my glass, and now she's sick. "Funny how that keeps happening to me at your dinners." "Nathan." Vivian coughed again, her hands shaking as she gripped Nathan's arm. You switched the glasses," she stammered, her eyes darting between me and Ethan. "You knew. After 3 ER visits in a year. You think I wouldn't figure it out?" I said, my voice steady but cold. "The gazpacho at your picnic, the dessert at Ethan's birthday, the cocktail at your barbecue, and now this wine. You're not as subtle as you think." Nathan's face drained of color, his hands balling into fists. "Claire, you're blowing this out of proportion. It's just a bad reaction." "Then why did you tell her it would only make me tired?" I cut in, my eyes locked on Vivian. "Go on, Vivian. Tell me what you meant when you said it's burning." "What was in my glass?" Vivian's breath hitched, her eyes wild. "Ethan, you said it was safe," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You said it would just slow her down." The room went silent, the only sound the rain pounding against the windows. Ethan's face crumpled, his hands trembling. "Vivian, stop," he hissed. But it was too late. The truth was spilling out, and I was ready to catch every drop. I pulled my phone from my pocket, the recording still running. "I've got everything," I said, holding it up. "Every word, including what Vivian just said about you promising it would only slow me down. Care to explain?" "Ethan." He stared at me, blood draining from his face. "Claire, this wasn't supposed to happen. It was just what?" I stepped closer, my voice like ice. "Just a plan to make me miss the Verdant board meeting, to steal my promotion, to make sure I couldn't outshine you again." Vivian slumped in her chair, gasping. Nathan knelt beside her, his face a mask of panic. "We need to call an ambulance," he said, fumbling for his phone. "Vivian, hang on." I was already dialing 911. "I need an ambulance at 1420 Lovejoy Street, Loft 12B, I said, my voice steady. "A woman is having a severe reaction after drinking wine. She's coughing, shaking, and her throat is burning." I gave the address, my eyes never leaving Ethan and Nathan, as the operator confirmed the dispatch. Vivian's gaze met mine, her expression a mix of fear and fury. "You set me up," she whispered. "You knew all along." "I knew enough to protect myself," I replied, crouching to meet her gaze. "You and Ethan thought you could keep playing this game? But I've been watching you for months." The paramedics burst through the door, their boots thudding against the hardwood floor. I stepped back, letting them swarm around Vivian. Ethan tried to grab my arm, his voice desperate. "Claire, please, you don't understand." "Don't touch me," I said, pulling away. "And don't try to lie your way out of this. You knew exactly what was in that glass, didn't you? That's why you poured it so carefully." His silence was answer enough. As the medic strapped Vivian to a stretcher, Nathan hovered nearby, his eyes darting between me and the door. "Claire, this is a misunderstanding," he stammered. "We'd never hurt you." "Then why did you know it was the wrong glass before Vivian said anything?" I asked, my voice cutting through the chaos. "Why did you look at Ethan the moment she started coughing?" Nathan froze, his mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. The paramedics wheeled Vivian toward the door, and I followed, my phone still in hand. "I'm going with her," I said to the lead medic. "She's my sister-in-law." Ethan's voice cracked as he called after me. "Claire, wait. We can fix this." "There's nothing to fix," I said, not looking back. "You broke it the moment you chose to betray me." As I stepped into the elevator with the paramedics, the rain-soaked city stretched out below, its lights blurred by the storm. The truth was coming to light, and I wasn't stopping until every shadow was exposed. The sterile fluorescent lights of Portland's OHSU hospital cast a harsh glow over the ER waiting room, where Claire Donovan, sat clutching my phone. The storm outside had intensified, its howling winds rattling the windows as I replayed the events of the evening in my mind. The tainted wine, Vivian's collapse, Ethan's panicked silence. My sister-in-law, Vivian Caldwell, was in a treatment room, her condition stabilized but serious. My husband, Ethan, had vanished the moment the paramedics wheeled her away, leaving no explanation, no message, just a void where his loyalty should have been. Nathan, my brother-in-law, paced nearby, his face a mask of agitation, his eyes avoiding mine. My phone, still recording, had captured everything. Vivian's choked confession that Ethan had promised the wine would only slow me down, Nathan's slip when he realized the wrong glass had been drunk, and Ethan's desperate, half-formed excuses as I walked out the door. But I needed more than audio to bring them down. I needed the truth, unfiltered and undeniable, and I wasn't leaving until I had it. A young nurse approached, her clipboard clutched tightly. "Ms. Donovan." "I'm Lena. Mrs. Caldwell is awake and asking for you. She's weak, but stable. You can see her now." I nodded, standing and slipping my phone into my pocket, the recording still running. "Thank you. Is there a doctor I can speak to afterward?" "Dr. Kessler is overseeing her case," Lena replied. "He'll meet you after your visit. The police have been notified, as para seems like standard procedure for a poisoning case." I followed Lena down a quiet hallway, the antiseptic smell stinging my nose. My mind raced, piecing together the puzzle of the past 18 months. 3 hospitalizations, each tied to a meal or drink from Nathan or Vivian, each time to sabotage my career. The gazpacho at their spring picnic, the dessert at Ethan's birthday, the cocktail at their barbecue, all dismissed by Ethan as accidents, but I'd long since stopped believing him. My hidden folder, Sentinel, held the evidence. Photos of a suspicious vial from Ethan's briefcase, screenshots of cryptic texts between him and Vivian, and a meticulous log of every incident. I'd been building my case for months, and tonight's events were the final nail in their coffin. Vivian's room was dimly lit, the beeping of monitors punctuating the silence. She lay in the hospital bed, pale and fragile, her auburn hair limp against the pillow. An IV dripped steadily into her arm, and her eyes, usually sharp and calculating, were heavy with exhaustion. When she saw me, her lips parted, but no sound came out at first. She tried to sit up, wincing, then sank back against the pillows. "I didn't think you'd come," she whispered, her voice raspy. "I came to hear the truth," I said, my tone cold as I stood a few feet from her bed. "After 3 ER visits in a year, I figured I deserved to look you in the eye one last time. So, tell me, Vivian, why?" Her gaze dropped to her hands, her fingers twisting the edge of the blanket. "It wasn't supposed to go this far," she said, her voice barely audible. "It was just to make you step back, to give us a chance. Us." I stepped closer, my voice low and sharp. "You mean you and Ethan? So you could swoop in and take credit for my work? Like you tried to do with the Verdant board meeting?" Vivian's eyes fluttered shut, her breath shallow. "You don't understand," she said. "You made it look so easy. The clients, the contracts, the promotions. You walked into Verdant and suddenly everyone was talking about Claire Donovan. I've been in this industry for 12 years, clawing my way up, and no one noticed. Then you showed up, and it was like I didn't exist. I crossed my arms, my anger simmering. So you poisoned me because I was good at my job. It wasn't poison, she said quickly, her eyes snapping open. Not at first. The gazpacho had a mild sedative, just enough to make you dizzy. The dessert had a trace of something to upset your stomach. Ethan said it was harmless, just enough to keep you home for a day or two. Ethan, I repeated, the name like a knife in my chest. My husband, the man who swore to love and protect me. He was in on this from the start. Vivian's lips trembled, and she looked away. He changed after you got the Verdant job. You were pulling in deals he couldn't touch the Solaris contract. The EcoPulse partnership. He felt like he was fading into your shadow. He said if you missed a few key meetings, the board would turn to us. To him. I sat in the chair beside her bed, my hands clenched in my lap. The vial in his briefcase, I said, my voice steady. The one I found after the cocktail incident. What was it? Vivian hesitated, her fingers tightening on the blanket. It was a compound from a lab. Ethan knew someone from his grad school days, a chemist at a place called Nexapharm. They develop experimental drug stuff for neurological studies. He got it off the books, said it would slow your cognition, make you foggy, but it wouldn't show up in standard tests. My blood ran cold. And you went along with this. You let him drug me to steal my career. I didn't want to, she said, her voice cracking. But Ethan, he's my brother. He said we'd both benefit. I'd get the spotlight at Verdant, and he'd get the board's trust. We were supposed to split the Solaris contract commission, but it kept escalating. The doses got stronger. I told him it was too much, but he wouldn't listen. I leaned forward, my eyes boring into hers. The wine tonight? That wasn't just to make me foggy. Was it? Vivian, you could have killed me. Tears welled in her eyes, spilling down her cheeks. I didn't know, she whispered. Ethan said it was a higher dose, but safe. I swear. Claire, I never meant for it to go this far. I just wanted my life back. I sat back, my chest tight with fury and betrayal. There was no excuse for what they'd done, no justification for the pain they'd caused. But in the soft light of the hospital room, I saw a woman broken by envy, hollowed out by years of resentment. It didn't make me pity her, it made me resolute. The door opened, and Dr. Kessler entered, a middle-aged man with a serious expression. Behind him was Detective Alicia Torres, a woman in her 40s with a no-nonsense demeanor. Donovan. Dr. Kessler said, we've analyzed Mrs. Caldwell's blood work. We found traces of a synthetic compound, likely a cholinesterase inhibitor used in controlled research settings. It's not commercially available. And the dose she consumed was significant. If you had drunk the full glass, the effects could have been catastrophic seizures, respiratory failure, even death. I gripped the armrest, my knuckles white. I want to press charges, I said, my voice firm. This wasn't an accident. It was attempted murder. Detective Torres nodded, pulling out a notepad. We're already building a case. The hospital notified us as soon as the blood work came in. I understand you have a recording. I handed her my phone. The audio file queued up. Everything from the dinner is here, I said. Vivian's confession, Ethan's reactions, Nathan's slip about the wrong glass. And I have more logs, photos, texts. It's all on a USB drive in my bag. Torres's eyes sharpened as she listened to the recording through her earpiece. This is damning, she said, pausing at Vivian's choked words. Ethan, you said it was safe? We'll need Mrs. Caldwell's statement, but this alone is enough to bring your husband in for questioning. Vivian stirred, her voice faint. Check my laptop, she said, her eyes fixed on Torres. There's an email from Ethan to a guy named Ryan Holt at Nexapharm. He asked for a compound that slows cognition without a trace. It's in my work folder, labeled consulting. The password is Vivian 2023. Torres jotted it down, then turned to me. We'll need your medical records from your past hospitalizations to establish a pattern. Can you provide those? Already done, I said, pulling the USB drive from my bag. It's all here: blood work, discharge summaries, and a detailed log of every incident, cross-referenced with who served me what. I've been tracking this since February. Dr. Kessler stepped forward. I reviewed your records from your last admission in June. There were trace amounts of a similar compound in your blood. Too low to flag at the time. This wasn't a one-off. Someone was experimenting on you, adjusting dosages over months. My stomach twisted, the weight of his words sinking in. This wasn't just a scheme to sabotage my career, it was a calculated, methodical assault on my life. I stood, my resolve hardening. I want Ethan and Nathan questioned tonight, I said, and I want that lab investigated. If Nexapharm is supplying illegal compounds, they're complicit. Torres nodded. We're sending a team to your husband's office at Verdant Solutions now. If there's evidence there, we'll find it. As for Mr. Caldwell, he's in the waiting room. We'll bring him in for questioning. I glanced at Vivian, her tear-streaked face a stark contrast to the confident woman who'd once toasted my success with a smile. One last thing, I said, my voice low. Why did Ethan disappear tonight? Where did he go? Vivian's eyes flickered with something fear, maybe guilt? I don't know, she whispered. He panicked when I started coughing. Said he needed to handle something. That's all he said. I turned to leave, my heart heavy but my purpose clear. Ethan was out there, running from the truth, but he couldn't hide forever. As I stepped into the hallway, Detective Torres's radio crackled with an update. We've got a hit at Verdant Solutions. Unmarked vials in Ethan Donovan's desk, labeled with dates and project names. One says Claire Solaris, 48 hours. My breath caught. The Solaris contract, the deal that had cemented my promotion, the one Ethan had tried to claim as his own. The evidence was mounting, and the net was closing in. I wasn't just fighting for justice anymore, I was fighting for my life. The rain had softened to a drizzle by the time I left OHSU Hospital. The Portland skyline shrouded in a misty haze as I drove to a boutique hotel downtown. The sterile glow of the ER and Vivian's tearful confession lingered in my mind. But Claire Donovan, was far from done. My phone buzzed with a voicemail from Detective Alicia Torres. We've secured the vials from Ethan's office. Lab analysis is underway. Stay safe, and don't confront him. I deleted the message, my hands steady on the wheel. Ethan was out there, hiding. But I wasn't waiting for him to strike again. I'd spent months building a case, and now it was time to bring it to light. Back in my hotel room, I locked the door and opened my laptop, accessing the hidden folder labeled Sentinel. Inside were 25 voice memos, 35 screenshots of texts between Ethan and Vivian, and a detailed log of every suspicious incident over the past 18 months, dates, symptoms, who served what, and the aftermath. The first entry was from February 2024, when I collapsed during a pitch rehearsal after drinking a smoothie Ethan had made. He'd stepped in, presenting my work as his own, and the client praised him for the Solaris contract. Later, I found a powdery residue in my water bottle, which he dismissed as electrolyte mix. That was when I started recording, photographing, and documenting everything. I emailed the entire folder to my attorney, Rachel Lynn, a former colleague known for her razor-sharp instincts and discretion. My note was brief. This is everything. I'm ready to end this. Let's make sure they don't walk away. Within 20 minutes, Rachel called, her voice calm but urgent. Claire, this is explosive. The recordings, the texts, the log, it's a clear pattern of intent. But we need to connect the vials to Nexapharm and prove Ethan's access. I'm looping in a private investigator, Sam Carver. He's ex-FBI and specializes in corporate conspiracies. Can you meet him tomorrow? Name the time and place, I said, my resolve unshaken. And Rachel, Ethan's on the run. He left the hospital without a word. I need to know where he is. I'll have Sam dig into it, she replied. In the meantime, stay low. If Ethan's desperate, he might try something reckless. I nodded, though she couldn't see me, and hung up. The hotel room felt too quiet, the city's hum muffled by the thick windows. I played a voice memo from 6 weeks ago, recorded when Ethan thought I was asleep. He'd been on the phone with Vivian, his voice low and tense. The last dose wasn't enough. She still nailed the eco-pulse pitch. We need something stronger for Solaris. Vivian's reply was cold. Make sure she's out for the board meeting. They'll pick us if she's a no-show. Nexapharm's got what we need. I stopped the playback, my chest tightening. The Solaris contract, $12 million. The deal that had cemented my promotion had been their target all along. I opened another file, A screenshot of a text from Ethan to an unknown number. Need more of the C17 compound. Same specs untraceable. 48-hour effect. Delivery by 9:15. The date matched the dinner at the loft. The pieces were falling into place, but I needed to know who was on the other end of that text. The next morning, I met Sam Carver at a small coffee shop in the Pearl District. He was in his late 40s, with a weathered face and a no-nonsense demeanor. "Claire," he said, sliding into the booth across from me. "Rachel sent me your files. You've got enough to bury them. But we need to tie Ethan to Nexapharm's supply chain. The vials in his office are a start, but we need the source." "I've got a name," I said, pulling out my phone. Vivian mentioned Ryan Holt, a chemist at Nexapharm. Ethan knew him from grad school. She said there's an email on her laptop, in a folder called Consulting. Password Vivian 2023. Sam's eyes narrowed. Good. Torres's team is pulling the laptop now. If that email checks out, we've got a direct link. But here's the kicker: Nexapharm's under scrutiny for off-books distribution. A whistleblower leaked documents last month about their special projects. If Ethan's tied to that, this goes beyond a family scheme. My pulse quickened. "What kind of projects?" "Experimental compounds for private clients," Sam said, lowering his voice. "Mostly neurological stuff that slows cognition, mimics fatigue, or triggers temporary symptoms. Untraceable in standard tests. Sound familiar?" "Too familiar," I said, my mind flashing to the metallic tang of the risotto, the bitter wine. "Can you get those documents?" "Working on it," he said. "But there's something else. Ethan's not just running, he's been in contact with someone at Verdant Solutions." I tracked his phone to a burner number linked to a colleague of yours, Jenna Patel. "Ring any bells?" I froze. Jenna Patel was my deputy at Verdant, a brilliant strategist who'd been my right hand on the Solaris contract. She'd always been supportive, staying late to crunch numbers, cheering my promotion. But now, a memory surfaced. A week before the loft dinner, I'd caught her lingering near Ethan's office, their conversation cutting off when I approached. "Jenna," I said, my voice tight. "She's been with me on every major deal. Why would she be involved?" "That's what we're going to find out," Sam said, sliding a photo across the table. It was a grainy security still of Ethan and Jenna in a parking garage, their heads bent close. This was taken 2 days ago, after the hospital. "They're planning something." My stomach churned. Betrayal, piling on betrayal. "Find her," I said, "and get me everything on Nexapharm. I'm not letting this slip through the cracks." That afternoon, Detective Torres called with an update. "We accessed Vivian's laptop," she said. "The email's there, Ethan, to Ryan Holt, dated August 2024. Requesting C17 compound, same as last batch. Untraceable." Holt replied with delivery details to a P.O. box under Ethan's name. "We're raiding Nexapharm's lab tonight. As for the vials from Ethan's office, prelim tests confirm they're C17, a cholinesterase inhibitor. Matches Vivian's blood work." "What about Ethan?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm inside me. "We're tracking him," Torres said. "His car was spotted near Lake Oswego, but he's gone dark. Nathan's in custody, cooperating. He claims Ethan pressured him into helping. Says he didn't know the full extent. We're not buying it yet." I hung up, my mind racing. Nathan's cooperation could be a ploy. But the real shock was Jenna. I opened my laptop and scanned my Sentinel folder for any mention of her. A voice memo from 3 months ago caught my eye. Recorded during a late-night strategy session, Jenna's voice, faint but clear, speaking to Ethan in the hallway. "If Claire's out for Solaris, I can lead the pitch. Just make sure it's clean." Ethan's reply was muffled. "It will be... She won't see it coming." My hands shook as I saved the file to a new USB drive. Jenna wasn't just a bystander, she was complicit. Angling for my job while smiling to my face, I forwarded the memo to Rachel and Sam, with a note. "Jenna Patel's involved. Dig into her communications with Ethan." By evening, Sam sent an encrypted file, a partial Nexapharm document, leaked by the whistleblower. It listed C17 as a discrete asset for targeted performance suppression, with clients including corporate consultants. One entry caught my eye. A shipment to E. Donovan, Verdant Solutions, September 2024. The document was signed by Ryan Holt, The net was tightening, but Ethan was still a ghost. I returned to the hotel, my nerves frayed but my purpose clear. On my laptop, I drafted a video statement, my face illuminated by the screen's glow. "My name is Claire Donovan," I said, my voice resolute. "For 18 months, my husband, Ethan Donovan, my sister-in-law, Vivian Caldwell, and others conspired to poison me with experimental compounds to sabotage my career. I have evidence recordings, texts, medical records, and now proof of their ties to Nexapharm. I'm coming for justice." I saved the file as final stand and sent it to Rachel. As I closed my laptop, a text from an unknown number flashed on my phone. "Claire, meet me at Waterfront Park. Midnight. I can explain everything. Jenna." My heart pounded. It could be a trap, but it could also be my chance to confront her. I forwarded the text to Sam and Torres, then grabbed my coat. The truth was close, and I wasn't backing down now. The Portland skyline was ablaze with autumn hues as Claire Donovan stood outside the Multnomah County Courthouse on a chilly November morning in 2024. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of fallen leaves, but inside, the tension was palpable, thick enough to choke on. Today marked the start of the trial against my husband, Ethan Donovan, my sister-in-law, Vivian Caldwell, and their accomplice, Jenna Patel, my former deputy at Verdant Solutions. For 18 months, they'd conspired to poison me with experimental compounds, aiming to sabotage my career and steal my success. Now, with a mountain of evidence in hand, I was here to see justice served. The courtroom was a sea of polished wood and hushed whispers, the gallery filled with reporters, colleagues, and a few familiar faces from Verdant. I sat in the front row on the plaintiff's side, next to my attorney, Rachel Lynn, whose calm demeanor belied the ferocity she'd shown in preparing our case. My mother, Ellen, sat behind me, her hand resting on my shoulder, a quiet anchor in the storm. Across the room, Ethan, Vivian, and Jenna sat at the defense table, their faces pale and drawn. Ethan avoided my gaze, his hands clasped tightly, while Vivian's eyes darted nervously. Jenna, once my trusted ally, stared straight ahead, her expression unreadable. The prosecutor, A.D. Marissa Chen, opened with a commanding presence. "Ladies and gentlemen, this case is not merely a family dispute or a workplace rivalry. It is a chilling conspiracy to destroy Claire Donovan's health, reputation, and career through deliberate poisoning. The defendants Ethan Donovan, Vivian Caldwell, and Jenna Patel acted with calculated intent, driven by envy and greed, to undermine a woman whose only crime was her success. The evidence was presented methodically, each piece a dagger in the defendant's defense. First came the recording from the loft dinner, played through the courtroom's speakers. Vivian's choked confession echoed, "Ethan, you said it was safe. You said it would just slow her down." Nathan's slip followed. "Why did you know it was the wrong glass?" The jury's faces hardened, some leaning forward, others scribbling notes. Rachel leaned toward me, whispering, "They're hooked. Chen's got them." Next was my video statement, recorded in the hotel room the night after the dinner. On the screen, my face was steady, my voice unwavering. "My name is Claire Donovan. For 18 months, my husband, my sister-in-law, and my colleague poisoned me to steal my opportunities. I trusted them, and they betrayed me. I didn't look at Ethan as the video played, but I felt the weight of his presence, a ghost of the man I'd once loved. Dr. Kessler, the ER physician from OHSU, took the stand, presenting my medical records from 3 hospitalizations. Each visit showed traces of a cholinesterase inhibitor, C17, in increasing concentrations. He testified. This was not accidental. The dosages were adjusted over time, indicating control and intent. He held up a chart, pointing to spikes in my blood work that aligned with the Solaris pitch, the EcoPulse deal, and the loft dinner. The jury's eyes widened, the implications sinking in. The Nexapharm connection was the prosecution's trump card. A lab technician, Dr. Emily Nguyen, testified about the company's special projects division, which supplied C17 for discrete clients. She confirmed an email from Ethan to Ryan Holt, a Nexapharm chemist, requesting untraceable compounds for performance suppression. A leaked document, provided by a whistleblower, listed shipments to E. Donovan, Verdant Solutions, with dates matching my illnesses. The final blow was the vials found in Ethan's office. One labeled Claire Solaris, 48 hours. Its contents confirmed as C17. Jenna's involvement was the trial's shockwave. Private investigator Sam Carver testified about her communications with Ethan, including a voice memo where she said, "If Claire's out for Solaris, I can lead the pitch." Screenshots of texts showed her coordinating with Ethan to keep Claire sidelined during key meetings. The prosecution played a security video from Verdant's parking garage, showing Jenna and Ethan in a heated discussion 2 days after the loft incident. She knew about the compounds, Chen said, pointing to Jenna. She wasn't just a bystander, she was a co-conspirator, angling for Ms. Donovan's job. The defense tried to pivot, claiming Vivian and Jenna were manipulated by Ethan, who only wanted to help his wife rest. Ethan's attorney, a slick man named Gregory Holt, argued, "My client was concerned about Claire's overwork. He made poor choices, but there was no intent to harm." Jenna's lawyer painted her as a naive pawn, while Vivian's claimed she acted out of sibling loyalty. The courtroom stirred, but Chen dismantled their narrative with surgical precision. "Help her rest," Chen scoffed, her voice rising. "By lacing her wine with a neurological toxin, by emailing a chemist for compounds to slow cognition, by labeling vials with her name and project deadlines. This wasn't concern. Your Honor, this was a conspiracy to destroy." On the third day, Nathan Caldwell, who'd taken a plea deal, testified against the others. His voice trembled as he faced the jury. "Ethan came to me last spring," he said. "He said Claire's success was overshadowing us all. He got the compounds from Nexa Farm, said they'd make her miss meetings without anyone knowing. Vivian and Jenna were in on it. They wanted the Solaris contract. I helped with the dinner, but I didn't know how dangerous it was." His eyes flicked to Vivian, who stared at the table, her face ashen. The trial's turning point came when Vivian requested to speak. She stood, her hands shaking, her once confident demeanor replaced by fragility. "I don't deny what I did," she said, her voice breaking. "I was jealous of Claire. Her success made me feel invisible. Ethan convinced me it was just business, that we'd only slow her down, but I should have stopped it. I'm sorry." Her tears fell, but I felt no sympathy, only the weight of her betrayal. Ethan remained silent, his head bowed, until the final day. As the jury deliberated, he turned to me, his voice low. "Claire, I never meant to hurt you. I couldn't keep up." I didn't respond. His words were hollow, a last gasp of a man who'd lost everything. The jury returned after 4 hours, the courtroom silent as the judge read the verdict. On the charges of conspiracy to cause serious bodily harm, unauthorized use of controlled substances, and intentional endangerment, we find Ethan Donovan, Vivian Caldwell, and Jenna Patel guilty. The gallery gasped, cameras flashing. Ethan Donovan is sentenced to 20 years in prison, Vivian Caldwell to 12 years, and Jenna Patel to 8 years. None are eligible for parole. Ethan's shoulders slumped, his face buried in his hands. Vivian sobbed, her head shaking. Jenna stared at the floor, her composure shattered. I exhaled, the tension in my chest unraveling. It wasn't triumph, it was relief, like waking from a nightmare that had lasted too long. As the defendants were led away, Rachel squeezed my hand. "You did it. Claire, you brought them down." I nodded, my eyes fixed on the courtroom doors. "It's not about winning," I said softly. "It's about the truth." Outside, the autumn sun broke through the clouds, casting golden light over the city. My mother hugged me tightly, her voice thick with emotion. "I'm so proud of you. Claire, you didn't let them break you." I smiled, though my heart was heavy. The trial was over, but the scars remained. I'd lost my husband, my sister-in-law, and a colleague I'd trusted, but I'd gained something stronger. The certainty that I could face the darkest betrayals and still stand tall. The fight wasn't over. Rebuilding my life would take time, but I was ready to move forward. One step at a time. The Willamette River sparkled under the September sun of 2025, its gentle ripples reflecting the vibrant energy of Portland's waterfront. I, Claire Donovan, stood on the main stage at the Pacific Northwest Sustainability Summit, facing a sea of executives, innovators, and aspiring entrepreneurs. The air buzzed with anticipation, the crowd's eyes fixed on me as I adjusted the microphone. A year ago, I'd walked out of a courtroom with a shattered heart, but an unbreakable spirit. Today, I was here to share my story not of betrayal, but of resilience. My name is Claire Donovan. I began, my voice clear and steady. 18 months ago, I uncovered a conspiracy led by those closest to me, my husband, my sister-in-law, and a trusted colleague. They poisoned me to steal my career, my health, and my voice. But I didn't crumble. I gathered evidence, pursued justice, and reclaimed my life. Today, I'm here to talk about transforming adversity into purpose, and how integrity and perseverance can light the way through the darkest storms. The audience leaned forward, some nodding, others scribbling notes. I paused, letting the weight of my words settle. Success isn't revenge, I continued. Revenge is rooted in bitterness. But success built on hard work and truth frees you from the need to look back. It's not about proving them wrong, it's about proving yourself right. Applause erupted, warm and resounding. In the front row, my mother, Ellen, beamed, her eyes glistening with pride. Beside her sat Rachel Lynn, my attorney, who'd become a friend through the trial's grueling months. The journey here hadn't been easy. After the guilty verdicts against Ethan, Vivian, and Jenna, I'd faced a crossroads. Verdant Solutions, despite supporting me during the lawsuit, was tainted by memories of betrayal. The whispers in the hallways, the cautious glances from colleagues, it was too much. I needed a fresh start. 3 months after the trial, I accepted an offer from EcoWave Innovations, the company behind the Solaris contract I'd fought so hard to secure. They brought me on as Chief Strategy Officer, giving me full control over their Northwest expansion. I didn't seek the spotlight or speak to the press about the trial. I let my work speak for itself, pouring my energy into projects that mattered. 6 months ago, I led a $20 million partnership with a leading solar tech firm, Solstice Energy, earning EcoWave a feature in Forbes. My team followed with the National Award for Sustainable Innovation, and last month, I was elected to the board of the Green Business Alliance, but the victories weren't just professional. I'd sold the house I'd shared with Ethan, a modern craftsman in Laurelhurst that once felt like home but now echoed with lies. In its place, I'd bought a loft in the Pearl District, its open spaces filled with my own design's bright textiles, bookshelves brimming with novels, and a balcony overlooking the river. Every evening, I sipped chamomile tea, not wine, and savored the peace of a life I'd reclaimed. I no longer questioned my drinks or scanned rooms for threats. I was free. The summit speech was my first public acknowledgement of the ordeal, and I'd chosen it carefully. As I spoke, I noticed a young woman in the audience, her eyes wide with admiration, clutching a notebook. She reminded me of myself a decade ago, full of ambition, but unaware of the shadows that success could cast. To anyone facing betrayal or doubt, I said, looking directly at her, know this. Your strength isn't in avoiding the storm, but in walking through it. The truth is your greatest weapon. Hold it close, and never let it go. The crowd rose to their feet, their applause echoing through the convention center. I stepped off the stage, my heart full but steady. Backstage, the young woman approached, her notebook trembling in her hands. Ms. Donovan, I'm Maya, she said, her voice soft but determined. I'm starting a clean energy startup, and your speech, it gave me courage. I've been afraid of failing, of people not taking me seriously. How do you keep going? I smiled, touching her arm gently. Courage isn't the absence of fear, Maya. It's moving forward despite it. You've got that spark already, I can see it. Trust yourself, and don't let anyone dim your light. She nodded, her eyes shining, and hurried off to join her team. I watched her go, a quiet pride settling in my chest. My story wasn't just mine anymore, it was a beacon for others, a reminder that no betrayal could extinguish a determined spirit. That evening, I returned to my loft, the city lights twinkling through the rain-streaked windows. An email from EcoWave's CEO waited in my inbox. The subject line simple: Solstice contract extended. The message read, Claire, your leadership has transformed our vision. The Solstice partnership is locked in for 5 more years. Thanks to you, You're not just a strategist, you're a testament to what's possible. I leaned back, sipping my tea, the river's gentle flow a soothing backdrop. I didn't know where Ethan, Vivian, or Jenna were now. My attorney had sent me their sentencing summaries, but I'd never opened them. I didn't need to. Their actions no longer defined me. I'd chosen to move forward, not with vengeance, but with purpose. The scars of their betrayal remained, faint but present, but they were proof of my survival, not my defeat. A memory surfaced, unbidden, the night of the loft dinner, when Vivian's eyes had met mine as she gasped, "You knew." In that moment, I'd felt the weight of their conspiracy, but also the power of my own resolve. I'd outsmarted them. Not with malice, but with clarity and truth. That was my victory, not the trial. Not the contracts, but the choice to rise above their darkness. I opened my laptop and started drafting a proposal for EcoWave's next project, a community solar initiative for underserved neighborhoods. The work felt right, like a piece of the world I could shape for good. As I typed, a quote from Maya's notebook flashed in my mind, scribbled in the margins during my speech. "The truth sets you free." I smiled, my fingers pausing on the keys. It had, and it always would. Claire's story is a testament to the power of perseverance and integrity. Betrayed by those she trusted most, she didn't let their poison define her. She gathered evidence, pursued justice, and rebuilt her life on her own terms. In a world of deceit, she proved that character and resolve are the strongest weapons. Her success wasn't revenge, it was redemption, a light that no darkness could extinguish.